The Citizen Report is a production of New Shannon Media. All content protected under copyright.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm John Shannon, and thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. Thank you so much for joining me. My co-host David Heller is off tonight. Well, I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving dinner, celebrating with their loved ones and giving thanks for the blessings that they have. And depending on which state that you live in, like my state, North Carolina, I hope you didn't get too sad over mourning the loss of your pet turkey. Yeah. Well, those tyrants are not going to tell us what to do. We are going to meet with our families. We are going to assemble as American citizens, because I'll tell you something right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are still American citizens. We have inalienable rights. These tyrants under no circumstances can tell us what to do. They derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. And if they exceed those powers, they're no longer protected as in the office that they are in. They can be held personally liable and should be held personally liable. But I digress. As I said, I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving dinner with their loved ones. Now I'm hoping to get back a little bit more into the normal schedule here on the Citizen Report. As you probably know, I took a bit of a break this month because, for one thing, my schoolwork was just overwhelming. Had some personal issues going on. I had some personal things in my personal life I was trying to get resolved as well. And also, kind of taking a step back and watching to see what happened next with regards to the election. Now, we are now nearing the end of November. And it looks, time is of the essence for the Trump campaign, but I do believe Trump is going to come out on as the victor. He will be the winner. And why I say that, I'll get into in just a little bit. But please go back and watch my broadcast I did earlier this week, because I really went into, I provided pretty extensive analysis and commentary in that broadcast. But I have some additional information to pass along to you. Without further ado, a lot of different things here to talk about. But for one thing, there is a portion of this document, and I'm talking about the Sidney Powell document, the filing that she did, dated, it looks like November 25th, in the state of Georgia, in the federal courts there. Let me look to see what it is. In the United States District Court, Northern District of Georgia, Atlanta Division. So, and I barely touched it on the last broadcast, for one thing, because at the time when I was getting ready to go on with the Citizen Report, I was just learning the news, and I really didn't understand much about the document, except the general essence of, well, the Kraken has been released, and this is just bombshell information. Now, I still haven't gone through the entirety of this document. However, if you want to, and you can go to Gateway Pundit actually and pull this up yourself. And I'm going to go down to page 8 here, and I want to read to you an excerpt that Sidney Powell includes in her document. And I want to read to you what it says here. I think it's pretty interesting information. And this is what, now keep in mind, Kemp, when the name Kemp is mentioned, that's the current governor of Georgia. When the name Raffensperger is mentioned, that's the current Secretary of State in Georgia. Okay, so when you hear those names, just keep that in the back of your mind. So again, Kemp, governor of Georgia; Raffensperger, Georgia Secretary of State. All right, so here we go with this excerpt. This is section 13, and it begins on. Section 13 is on page 8. It says, quote, "Defendants Kemp and Raffensperger disregarded all the concerns that caused Dominion software to be rejected by the Texas Board of Elections in 2018. namely that it was vulnerable to undetected and non-auditable manipulation. An industry expert, Dr. Andrew Appel, Princeton professor of computer science and election security expert, has recently observed with reference to Dominion voting machines, quote, "I figured out how to make a slightly different computer program that just before the polls were closed, it switches some votes around from one candidate to another. I wrote that computer program into a memory chip, and now to hack a voting machine, you just need 7 minutes alone with it and a screwdriver," unquote. And it's got in parentheses, attached here too, Exhibit 7, study ballot marking devices, or BMDs, cannot assure the will of the voters, by Andrew W. Appel, Princeton University. Richard A. DeMillo, Georgia Tech. Philip B. Stark for the University of California, Berkeley, December 27, 2019. And that's that, and it denotes footnote number 5. Okay, so anyways, I want to read to you. I'm gonna read at least one more section, and this is now on page 9. The next section, section 14. It reads, quote, "As explained and demonstrated in the accompanying redacted declaration of a former electronic intelligence analyst under 305th Military Intelligence with experience gathering SAM missile system electronic intelligence, the Dominion software was accessed by agents acting on behalf of China and Iran in order to monitor and manipulate elections, including the most recent U.S. general election in 2020. This declaration further includes a copy of the patent records for Dominion systems in which Eric Coomer is listed as the first of the inventors of Dominion voting systems." And then in parentheses it says, "See attachment here too as Exhibit 8, copy of redacted witness affidavit, 17 pages, November 23, 2020. Close parentheses. Now, I could keep going here, but this is just incredible. I mean, just about every single news section in this court filing is just more damning than the last, because what she's really putting down in writing is really the culmination of everything we suspected to be the case, and it's even worse. The fact that they didn't just steal this election, they were so brazen to think they could get away with it in a state like Georgia. And I'm listening to Fox News and I'm listening to other people, and they're trying to make it sound like, oh, they got out the vote in Georgia and they registered so many Democrats. I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure Georgia, outside the Atlanta area, maybe also outside of Savannah, you've got a huge a solid three-fourths, more than three-fourths really, of the state in terms of counties that is Republican. It's solid red for much of the state. Now, yes, you do have these pockets here and there. I get that. But my point being is that this is not a state that should easily be swayed one way or the other in terms of, being, break away from being a solid Republican, if you know what I mean. I want to read to you another section. I skipped down to section 17. Interesting number, right? On page 10. And here's what it says, quote, "The Dominion system used in Georgia erodes and undermines the reconciliation of the number of voters and the number of ballots cast, such that these figures are permitted to be unreconciled, opening the door to ballot stuffing and fraud. The collapse of reconciliation was seen in Georgia's primary and runoff elections this year." Pay attention here. "And in the November election, where it was discovered during the hand audit that 3,300 votes were found on memory sticks that were not uploaded on election night. Plus, in Floyd County, another 2,600 absentee ballots had not been scanned. These found votes reduced Biden's lead over Donald Trump." Yeah, they've been caught again. All right, section 18, now on page 11. I'm going to read this as well. "Georgia's election officials and poll watchers exacerbated and helped, whether knowingly or unknowingly, the Dominion system carry out massive voter manipulation by refusing to observe statutory safeguards for absentee ballots. Election officials failed to verify signatures and check security envelopes. They barred challengers from observing the count, which also facilitated the fraud. Oh, this is just getting good, folks. It is getting really, really good. Okay, same page here. Also on page 11, we got section 19. I'm going to go ahead and read this also. Quote, expert analysis of the actual votes set forth below demonstrates that at least 96,600 votes were illegally counted. Did you catch that? 96,600. If you round that up, that's on its way to 97,000. Let me start that again. I just wanted to make sure you didn't gloss over that. That's not here or there. Do you realize that the city I live in is, and this is a city. This city is smaller. Gastonia, I mean, is smaller, at least at last check. It's like in the 70,000 range, I think. I mean, this is ridiculous. Let me read this section. I just wanted to make sure you caught that. Expert analysis of the actual votes set forth below demonstrates that at least 96,600 votes were illegally counted during the Georgia 2020 general election. All of the evidence and allegation herein is more than sufficient to place the result of the election in doubt. More evidence arrives by the day, and discovery should be ordered immediately. Now, by the way, a discovery, that's basically a process during it's basically it's an early phase in a lawsuit where if you're in a lawsuit, you can demand evidence against the other party to find out certain information. I'm not an attorney, so I don't really know I'm sure an attorney or somebody else could explain it better than me, but just to say, suffice it to say, discovery basically allows you to see certain information that you might not otherwise get. Okay, she quotes a portion of the Georgia law. I'm not going to read that. Well, anyways, I think I read enough that you kind of get the gist of it. But actually, I just spotted this. On page 18, I was just kind of scrolling down. She actually quotes the Constitution. I want to read this to you because this is very, very important. So section 40 at the top of page 18, here's what her filing says. Quote, the United States Constitution sets forth the authority to regulate federal elections. The Constitution provides, and then it quotes the Constitution here, quote, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislator thereof, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. U.S. Constitution, Article 1, I believe that means Section 4, which is also known as Elections Clause. Okay, next section, Section 41. This is her now talking again. Section 41, also on page 18 of her filing, it reads as follows. With respect to the appointment of presidential electors, the Constitution provides each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislator thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed an elector. And that's referring to the U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, also known as Electors Clause. Section 42, I'm going to go ahead and read that. I'm not exactly sure where she's going with this, but I'll go ahead and read it just for good measure. Neither defendant is a legislator. I can almost sense the sarcasm in her writing here, but granted, she's doing due diligence. She's putting it down for record that, look, neither of these defendants, that's to say the Georgia governor or the Secretary of State. All right. Here's her quote. Neither defendant is a legislator as required under the Elections Clause or Electors Clause. The legislator is the representative body which makes the laws of the people. And she's referring to Smiley 285, US 365. I'm not sure if that's referring, if that particular quote was a court case. Again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just looking at this, you know, trying to get you the information as best as I can here. All right, continuing with her section here, section 42. Regulations of congressional and presidential elections, thus, quote, must be in accordance with the method which the state has prescribed for legislative enactments. And she's referring to certain stuff. Again, I'm not an attorney, so, but you get the idea. All right, section 43, this is what it reads. While the Elections Clause was not adopted to diminish a state's authority to determine its own lawmaking processes, and that quote was not adopted to diminish a state's authority to determine its own lawmaking clause. She's referring to the Arizona State Legislature, 135 SCT dot at 2677. It does hold states accountable to their chosen processes when it comes to regulating federal elections. ID dot at 2668. Quote, a significant departure from the legislative scheme for appointing presidential electors presents a federal constitutional question, unquote. And she's referring to Bush, 531, U.S. at 113, Rehnquist, C.J. concurring, Smiley 285, U.S. at 365. Now, I want to, I just want to clarify here, basically what's being said here. So she's basically making the case here that there were rules that are supposed to be followed. Each state chooses certain rules. You can't go have a wild, be like the Wild West. There are certain standards per the Constitution, but the Constitution does grant discretion to the state legislators, not the governor, not the Secretary of State, to make certain rules. But whatever rules the legislator does make within their discretion that they have, it must be abided by. Now, we know that the Secretary of State was trying to basically, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, but I believe a few days ago I heard the news that the Georgia Secretary of State basically had a consent decree. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but a consent decree or something. He was basically consenting, and I don't remember if it was with the Democrats or whatever, but basically the Secretary of State or somebody in the state of Georgia that was not the legislator unilaterally changed the rules. You know, whether if it was one person or a group of people. The point is, whoever changed the rules, whoever did certain things underhandedly that was not right, it was not through the legislator, which means the whole thing is completely thrown. I mean, the whole election is now in question because again, the Constitution does say that the legislators have certain discretion when it comes to making rules. They choose the electors for the Electoral College, things like that. But within that discretion that they get, you are held to whatever you choose as a legislator. It means nobody else in that state can change it. Okay? And, hopefully you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Now, I want to segue to this. This is more recent information. This is courtesy of Gateway Pundit. And by the way, it's a great website. I highly recommend it. It's not a product placement. I'm just an individual guy. I like what I see here. I like this website. So go to thegatewaypundit.com. It's definitely well worth your while checking them out. But here's their headline from November 27. It reads, quote, breaking, huge. Pennsylvania judge files memorandum stating issues found statewide in Pennsylvania race. Trump case likelihood to succeed gives state legislators power to choose electors. This is what it says, the article, I mean, from the Gateway Pundit. And the writer of this is Jim Hoft. It says, quote, "This is huge. Pennsylvania Judge Patricia A. McCall filed a memorandum of opinion on Friday stating the Pennsylvania preliminary election certification injunction was properly issued and should be upheld." That's huge. McCall added this, quote, "Additionally, petitioners appear to have established a likelihood to succeed." This is a tweet from Robert Barnes. I believe he was on InfoWars before. You know, he might actually be. Before I say that, let me get a picture up of him. You know something? That might actually be the attorney that was helping out Alex Jones a while back. That's interesting. Well, anyways, Robert Barnes at Barnes Law said this. And this is a tweet from November 27th. Pennsylvania trial court rules the 2020 election was likely unconstitutional in Pennsylvania, and that gives state legislators power to choose electors. Wow. Now, we know in Pennsylvania there was a hearing held, and I believe this was in the state legislature in Pennsylvania, and I believe it was Rudy Giuliani and the Trump allies that were speaking there. And it was multiple hours. I mean, it was incredible. But this is just incredible. Let me see here. Okay, so Chuck Caliesto at Chuck Caliesto, and I apologize if I mispronounced that name. It says breaking. This is also a tweet from November 27th. It reads, quote, "Breaking report. Judge Patricia A. McCall rules that Pennsylvania preliminary election certification injunction was properly issued and should be upheld." And it has a quote, "Additionally, petitioners appeared to have established a likelihood to succeed." So this is pretty big. And courtesy of MarkLevinShow.com, it actually contains a filing, this filing. And this is a state court in Pennsylvania. In the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. Remember, Pennsylvania, it is a state, but, you know, for certain legal purposes, they're known as Commonwealth. But, you know, anyways, neither here nor there. They're still a state. In the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. My point being is at state level. Even state level, they're saying this. That's huge. Now, let me say, now I know I'm kind of haphazardly kind of jumping around here, but I'm trying to kind of give you a broad overview of everything so you can then do more research yourself later on. And I know, by the way, hi Christian, if you're watching, also have viewers joining me, at least one viewer joining me, most likely from another country. So, you know, I obviously want to try to do my best to make sure you're informed, because if you're in another country, it might make it less. You know, you might have a harder time staying up to date what's happening here stateside. Anyways, Gateway Pundit also has this article. Speaking of which, interestingly enough, ironically enough, this is a headline from November 28. It says, former Filipino, so that's the Philippines, that's where my friend Christian is, former Filipino lawmaker and attorney says Smartmatic preloaded machines with ballots before start of Manila elections. So we know there's already a precedent established here. We already know there's a precedent here that basically shows that even in other countries, these systems have been known to be manipulated to alter the vote significantly. It says, and this is the article here, also written by Jim Hoft, it reads, quote, "Attorney Glenn Chong, a former Filipino lawmaker, joined Michelle Malkin recently to discuss the Smartmatic corruption scandal in the Philippines election. Attorney Chong joined Michelle on Sovereign Nation on Newsmax TV." And this is a quote from Glenn Chong. And I believe, yeah, he's an attorney who was once a lawmaker in the Philippines. This is a quote from that individual. Quote, "Michelle, the term preloaded is exactly the right term I would use right here in Manila. preloaded votes, preloaded ballots. Again, I would point this out to our audience. Look at these pieces of documents. They are signed. We have 70,000 voters. Exactly 4,140 ballots were already scanned by 140 voting machines days before the election. That's over 6 and 7%. 6 and 7%. You think that's enough to change an outcome of an election? In certain cases, absolutely. I'm telling you, folks, the house of cards on the deep state with their voting machines is coming down in flames. The Kraken has been released, ladies and gentlemen. That's the point here. Now, also for your consideration, this is also an old news clip, and I believe it's courtesy of YouTube channel, the News Junkies Cartoons. I highly recommend that channel. It's got some great comedy on there, and also now and then it drops sound bites like this, and it's very, very intriguing. Now this is now, of course, you're just seeing me on video. I'm going to play it out on audio. I tested it before the show, so I know that this will the audio will come through just fine, but you won't see it, but you will hear it. This is, although this is uploaded to the News Junkies Cartoons YouTube channel, this is actually a video originally from CNN. Okay, I know CNN's fake news, but once in a while, especially historically, they got something right. Got something right. So anyways, here we go. This is regarding Chavez, the Venezuelan election, regarding these voting systems. So here we go.
U.S. voting machine companies. The U.S. government did not review the sale. Many experts say those voting machines were manipulated in Venezuela to give President Hugo Chavez a victory. Exit polls done by the U.S. firm Penn, Schoen & Berland had Chavez losing 41% to 59%. But the next day, Chavez declared victory, reversing the score, saying he won 59% of the vote.
Everything was computed in the favor of the government. So the only explanation is that the Smartmatic machines had been programmed in that way.
A Harvard mathematician crunched the numbers on the Venezuelan election.
It had to be the Smartmatic system. All these machines talk to a central computer and report on their results. And in that mechanism, as they communicate with the central machine can report anything.
Smartmatic is technically based in Boca Raton, Florida, but the president of the company, Jack Blaine, testified to the Chicago City Council.
There were times when some screws were not as tight as they should have been.
Fewer than a dozen Smartmatic employees work in Florida. The majority of the workers are based in Venezuela.
They're really showing themselves to do it.
Okay, so that again, although it historically was a video from CNN, it was uploaded here recently, courtesy of the News Junkies Cartoons on YouTube. So please go check out his or her, whoever it is, YouTube channel. But yeah, so basically we already see that historically these systems were used to literally change over the result from one person to another. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw Trump was ahead. Trump actually won this election, ladies and gentlemen, just to be clear. But Biden then caught up and took over because they had these voting systems in place. Okay? And no, it doesn't cut it claiming that the absentee ballots were slowly trickling in. Let me tell you something. That is not the case. There was such a landslide for Trump. They literally had to stop counting votes in the middle of it in the overnight, election night, because they realized there were so many votes for Trump, there was no way they were going to be able to use their algorithms and such to change the result to Biden, who they wanted. So they had to stop so they could regroup and figure out what to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is all coming out. It is all coming forth. We're seeing it happen in real time here. It is incredible. Incredible. Now, just for your consideration, just to mention in passing, before I came on here, I was sitting here and I was trying to pull up that 104-page Sidney Powell lawsuit document so I could, read a few excerpts of it. And I went to Google and I typed in 104-page lawsuit, Sidney Powell, and then you can actually, in case you don't know, you can restrict the search to a certain file type. So I typed in, because I knew it would be most likely be a PDF, so I typed in file type ;PDF. Well, here's what it says. It looks like there aren't many good matches for your search. Oh, really? Because all I had to do was go to the Gateway Pundit, and I could pull it right up as soon as I found their article where they linked it within that article. I mean, this is how you know big tech is trying to censor, even to the point of now where you're searching for something. They're literally altering their algorithm so you can't easily find something. Nothing can stop what is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing can stop what is coming. They can't stop the truth from getting out to the people. Trump won this, and we are going to win. Now, also from the Gateway Pundit, I seem to be just sourcing mostly from them tonight. This is from November 25th. This is an article by Jim Hoft on the Gateway Pundit website. It says, quote, listen to this. Joe Biden gets only 1,000 viewers to watch his Thanksgiving address live, but he got 80 million votes. What a complete joke. Yeah. Do you realize, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know this, most of you probably do know this, but I went to a Trump rally in Gastonia last month in October. And I think the final tally was well into the 20,000 range, well into the 20,000 range. And yet a video where somebody could theoretically watch anywhere for Joe Biden for his Thanksgiving address live only garners 1,000 viewers. But supposedly he got 80 million votes. Yeah. I don't think any of us are buying it. I mean, this is just pretty good. This show's getting good. I'm gonna have to get me some popcorn because this show is getting really, really good, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. Now, I also have this for you. This is another document. This is I'm not sure where this is filed. To be quite honest with you, this might be pertaining. Let's see here. Let's see if I can ascertain this. If I can. Well, anyways, disregard wherever this document was. Just in general, just take this. This is wherever it was filed. It was filed in a court somewhere regarding a case. This is a document. It says Declaration of Eric Quinnell. I'm going to read the first couple of paragraphs so you can kind of get a general overview of this individual. Number 1, my name is Dr. Eric Quinnell. I am over 18 years of age, and I am competent to testify in this action. All of the facts stated herein are true and based on my personal knowledge. All scientific conclusions herein are made to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty in my fields of expertise. Number 2, I received a Bachelor of Science degree in engineering in May of 2004, a Master of Science in Circuit Design in May of 2006, and a doctorate in computer arithmetic, or I'm not sure if that's arithmetic. Maybe it's arithmetic. Computer arithmetic or arithmetic in May of 2007, all from the University of Texas at Austin. Now, before I go any further, and this is a document by Eric Quinnell, PhD, dated November 25th, 2020. It was made, he literally says at the end of this document, I skipped all the way down to the bottom, and this is the exact quote, what I'm fixing to say here. He says, quote, I declare under the penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. So let's be clear. This individual is not just throwing accusations out. He's putting it himself under the threat of committing perjury if he was falsifying this allegation. Now, without further ado, let me make sure I get this right. let me get this right here. On number 6, on statement 6, and this is on page 3. All this that I'm going to read to you is on page 3. So number 6, at a county or district level of analysis, statistical anomalies appear in even greater ratios. For example, in the township of Livonia, Wayne County, where was a majority Republican county in the he says 2106 general election. I'm sure he meant 2016 general election. So obviously this individual is trying to get his information out quickly, and obviously these typos are apparent. But you can clearly, any reasonable person can understand clearly what he's trying to say. So he's saying, in the township of Livonia, Wayne County, which was a majority Republican county in the, obviously, 2016 general election, showed Biden gain 3.2 new voters for every one new Trump voter. Biden also achieved 97% of all additional new votes above 2016 general election total vote sum. Livonia, as well as achieved 151% more new votes than all total new registrations in the township, which is a significant mathematical curiosity. Oh, I bet it is a curiosity. Statement 7. Such local mathematical anomalies are not seen in all townships of both Wayne and Oakland counties, but rather only a select few. Statement 8. I constructed a mathematical model that subtracted out local statistical anomalies and renormalized them according to their 2016 ratios, all while keeping pace with the additional turnout for Trump as a control. This allowed me to quantize a predicted number of anomalous votes per county, which are listed at the end of the declaration. In all, I identified some 40,771 votes as statistically anomalous in Wayne County, which is outside Detroit, and some 46,125 votes in Oakland County. Wow. So, to summarize, this individual who has a PhD is alleging that Biden gained, that if these numbers are to be believed, I should say, that supposedly in a majority Republican county in the 2016 general election, which is in the township of Livonia, Wayne County, supposedly Biden gained 3.2 new voters for every one new Trump voter. Skipping down to section 8, he says, in all, I identified some 40,771 votes as statistically anomalous in Wayne County outside Detroit, and some 46,125 votes in Oakland County. Wow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is something. Again, PhD, making these allegations under threats of, under the penalties of perjury. So this individual, he is making some serious allegations here. And he's not just some individual. Again, he's a PhD. And he's clearly educated in this matter of mathematics. So, all right, let's segue. I want to get you some more headlines here, just generally from JohnBWellsNews.com. I encourage you to check him out. I think it's a great alternative to the Drudge Report. From theunitedwest.org, breaking huge. Pennsylvania judge rules 2020 Pennsylvania election likely unconstitutional. Trump case likelihood to succeed. Gives state legislators power to choose electors. From thegatewaypundit.com, it's happening. Pennsylvania state legislator files resolution. Disputes statewide 2020 election results. From the epochtimes.com, by the way, Epoch Times is fantastic. I encourage you to check them out. From the epochtimes.com, new lawsuit asks Wisconsin Supreme Court to declare all drop box ballots illegal and block certification. From dailycaller.com, the biggest disclosures in Michael Flynn's case. From the Federalist.com, leftists fomented attempts to have state electors vote against Trump in 2016. From the LibertyLoft.com, after issuing the Flynn pardon, Who else should Trump pardon? From Nogue, I believe that's, let me make sure I'm saying that right. No, NOQreport.com. NOQreport.com. New York Times previously praised Dr. Navid Kashvar's Nia, one of Sidney Powell's Kraken experts. Oh, really? So supposedly they want to try to say that Sidney Powell, that her allegations are just ridiculous, they claim. Whatever words they use, of course. But they actually previously, and this is the New York Times, they supposedly previously praised one of the experts in within what Sidney Powell's trying to do with her release of Kraken. Okay. From WND.com. CIA cybercrime expert. Hundreds of thousands of votes flipped to Biden. From WashingtonExaminer.com. Historically strange spike in incomplete Nevada voter files. Casinos as home. By Paul Bedard. Let's actually check that out for a second. So again, this is from WashingtonExaminer.com. This is an article dated November 27. Yeah, November 27th. It's in this article reads, an analysis of Nevada votes has uncovered an unprecedented jump in problem voter registrations, likely providing the Trump campaign with another avenue to challenge Joe Biden's victory in the critical state. In an affidavit filed in another Republican election challenge, a data scientist found a huge surge of incomplete voter registrations in those giving casinos in temporary, are you getting this? Casinos and temporary RV parks as their home or mailing address in the 3rd Congressional District that covers the southern third of the state and much of Clark County, which is obviously Las Vegas area. The expert, Dorothy Morgan, said that in her initial study of the records of those who voted, there was an historically strange jump in voter registrations, missing the sex and age of the voter, making confirmation by poll workers impossible. In other words, it's impossible to confirm that these people even, I guess, exist, or at least that their information is accurate. Wow. She found that in the last presidential election, there were 68 voter registrations missing the critical data. In 2020, it was 13,372. What's more, 74% of the incomplete registrations took place between July and September this year. In her 2-page affidavit provided to Secrets, Morgan wrote, quote, this investigation found over 13,000 voters whose voter registration information revealed no sex or date of birth. Not only does this mean we cannot verify whether these voters are old enough to vote, it is also historically strange. While one does not expect voter registration information to be perfect, it is very strange that there were very, very few of these kinds of imperfect records with missing or invalid information until this year, when there are 13,372 of them, unquote. Several addresses were odd too, she wrote, quote, I have also identified dozens of voters who listed as their home or mailing address a temporary RV park and a casino, unquote, she wrote. In a Thanksgiving Day interview from her Texas home, Morgan said, it's, quote, it's weird. So what I found was that there are just a lot of people who have 0 birthdays, 0 birth month, and then unknown sex, unquote. Then she said, after checking past history with 2020, quote, I saw is that you have a handful of people, and then all of a sudden you have 13,000 people making that error in 2020, and that's not right, unquote. Her affidavit was filed on behalf of Dan Rodemer, who lost his election to Representative Susie Lee in Nevada's 3rd Congressional District. He lost by 13,000 votes. A judge this week dismissed Rodemer's case. deciding that the court didn't have jurisdiction to handle it. Yeah, it makes me wonder how corrupt that judge might be then, right? Because I find this to be very, very curious, to say the least, about how anomalous all these are, how you can possibly have this many inaccuracies in a short amount of time with voter registrations. Okay, let me keep going here. The Trump campaign has found multiple examples of problem ballots and voting, and has been granted a December 3rd hearing to present some evidence in 15 depositions. In her affidavit, which has been forwarded to Trump's team, Morgan said that her findings were just scratching surface. Quote, "Based on the results I have found in the limited time I have had to analyze this data set, I expect to find additional oddities in the election data as I conduct further analysis," unquote, she wrote. What can I say, folks? Deep State's being exposed right now. What better time to uncover the absolute sham this voting system here in the United States has been, in many places at least, than right now? Because everything's on the line here. If Biden gets in, it's going to be socialism, it's going to be communism, it's going to be the end of the sovereignty of the United States of America. It is now or never. But we are, you know something? God's on Trump's side, and I believe that God is going to see us through this. I really do. But let's keep going here with JohnBWellsNews.com headlines here. Ohio elections, and I'm skipping. I may have. No. I'm picking up from the next headline here from courtesy of Newsmax. Ohio elections chief certifies 2020 general election results. From RedStateNation.com, breaking report, Pennsylvania judge gives rules that the 2020 election was likely unconstitutional in Pennsylvania, and that could give state legislators power to choose electors. From MediaRightNews.com, hashtag Biden cheated trends #1 on Twitter in the U.S. From PublishedReporter.com, Twitter mistakenly censors links to Michigan and Georgia lawsuits claiming massive voter fraud as potentially harmful information. Yeah, I wonder what's potentially harmful. Maybe it's potentially harmful to your attempted coup d'etat? Twitter? Deep State? Wow. From ToddStarnes.com, President warns that Stacey Abrams may be harvesting ballots for U.S. Senate races. And by the way, remember, in early January, Georgia has not one but two, as I understand it, two runoff races at the same time for the U.S. Senate. So these Democrats, they are going to pull out everything they have to try to rig it for them. Wow. So, but remember, folks, it's all being exposed right now. They've been caught. They've been able to get away with this here or there for so long. Not anymore. They've been caught. And now they're panicking. From thegregjarrett.com, emergency Wisconsin lawsuit to stop certification challenges nearly 160,000 votes. From NOQreport.com, Dominion investigation, a DOJ plane, and that's Department of Justice plane, went to Toronto, which is Dominion HQ or headquarters, then to Atlanta. And that headline is by J.D. Rucker. From thespectator.info, video release of phone call recording to Chinese manufacturer requesting a bulk order of fake U.S. 2020 ballots. From twitchy.com, sorry for your loss. Naturally, John Brennan is infuriated by report that Iran's top nuclear scientist has been killed. Isn't it true, by the way, that John Brennan converted to Islam? And he's a former CIA director under Obama. So what does that tell you about Obama? Just saying. Also from twitchy.com, it's bizarre. Ted Cruz slams John Brennan for consistently siding with Iranian zealots and has a question the media should ask Biden. From TrendingPolitics.com, crazed. Keith Olbermann wants to convert Trump hotels into prisons for supporters. This is the utter insanity of the left, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, if they were in control of the narrative, do you really think they would have to resort to saying things like this? No. From naturalnews.com, interview. Jeffrey Prather lays out how Trump, the DOD, that's I believe Department of Defense, and Chris Miller defeat the deep state traitors and save America by Mike Adams. From thespectator.info, quote, let us fight this evil now and know God's truths will expose them all. From AmericanThinker.com, does Trump's shuffling of the Defense Policy Board mean something? From BizPackReview.com, Obama's buddy, Ben Rhodes, gets dragged for tone-deaf attack on illegitimate SCOTUS, that's the Supreme Court of the United States, ruling. Again, the Obama people, the deep state people, they are panicking. Just look at their actions. They are panicking. They know they're not going to win this. They're trying to keep it up. The mainstream media is trying to keep it up, the appearances up, but it's not going to work. The cracks are forming. It's going to all come crashing down. Just watch. From theblaze.com, days before Christmas, Jupiter and Saturn will look like one bright star. Some believe the alignment is the same described in the Bible. Interesting. From survivaldan101.com, what will it be like? The 3 stages of U.S. martial law and the signs to look for before it happens. From neonnettle.com, CNBC poll, 73. This is a CNBC poll, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. 73% say Trump won. 66% say never concede. From Newsmax, Jenna Ellis to Newsmax TV, Trump team heads to Arizona legislator next. And then in world news, from in the world news section here, from johnbwellsnews.com, dailymail.co.uk, quote, he wanted to get martyred and his wish come true. Iranian nuclear chief scientist's widow appears on state TV with her husband's coffin as supreme leader vows to avenge his assassination by Israel. Let's see here. Let me make sure I'm not missing something critically important. Okay, I'll read this one. It's a little bit strong, but I'll read it. AllNewsPipeline.com has this headline: a free nation to an abomination. Mass civil disobedience is the only response to Nazi wannabe governors. Tell them all to go to hell. That was the headline. That was the headline from that from AllNewsPipeline.com. From TheFederalist.com, this is interesting. 195 million Chinese students are in school. Why aren't our kids? And by the way, I don't mean to sound crazy for don't think of me as crazy for just asking this question, but don't you think it's kind of interesting that suddenly we aren't hearing much about the flu these days? Aren't they usually pushing the flu shot this time of year? I mean, yeah, they're doing it. I've been to the stores. I've seen the signs and all. I mean, I know, but it just seems like the craze that's usually there for the flu is just not there. And I'm certainly not hearing numbers about the flu. And usually we're hearing about that by now, I think. So, just asking. Just asking. I'm trying to get the wheels in your head to turn on that. If I say what I really want to say, that might get thrown off of YouTube. If YouTube, I've already said enough that I could get banned from YouTube if YouTube ever actually found out what I'm saying on this channel. Thankfully, I'm small enough. I can kind of stay under the radar, I think, but at least in general. But yeah, just food for thought. But anyways, I think I'll leave it right about there. I'm just about out of time for this episode. But listen, folks, we're going to win this. I know a lot of people are troubled. I've had my moments. I'm human. You're human. You know, I get it. But we're going to win this, I believe. God is in control. I believe it's God's will that Trump be in there as president, because he's doing so much good for this country and the world. We are one nation. We are a Christian nation, one nation under God. We are a Christian nation. We were literally founded. If I can pull it up really quick, I'd like to read something to you, actually. I just had this thought come into my head from the Mayflower Compact, because this really reiterates the history of our country. This is the Mayflower Compact, the text from it. It says, and the reason why I read this, because I want you to understand just how blessed we are as America. It says, quote, "In the name of God, amen. We, whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our dread sovereign Lord, King James, by the grace of God of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, King, Defender of the Faith, etc., having undertaken for the glory of God, in advancement of the Christian faith, and the honor of our King and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these presents solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and of another, covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic, for our bettering ordering and preservation, and furtherance of the ends aforesaid." Okay, and I'm not going to read the rest of that, but my point being is that from the very beginning of this country's settlement, you know, long before we became a country, we were just part of other countries. We had Britain, and I believe, let's see, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Netherlands at one time had some stake over here. They had obviously Spain, the Spanish Empire, and I'm not sure if that was all of them, but obviously the big one, the biggest one perhaps, I dare say, was Britain, and of course you also had Spain, especially down in the Florida area and such. But my point being is that we came over from Britain. We set forth courageously into this country, into this new world, you know, and that's to say this continent. It hadn't been settled by a modern civilization. You had the Native Americans, but that was it, pretty much. But just to say, our country, we are so blessed, ladies and gentlemen, and people, Christians, all of us, need to revere this country. We need to defend this country, because they want to destroy our history. They want to make us think that this country was just, you know, that they want to make us out to be that we were only by slaves did this country ever exist. Well, that again, they're just trying to make it sound, make us all sound like that it was just, that was all what was going on. There were even founding fathers, even back in the colonial times, that despised. I don't have time to go into it, and I don't even remember off the top of my head necessarily who it was for certainty. But there were founding fathers that hated race. They hated, I should say, slavery, and that's why I say you should not believe the propaganda of the Democrats, the deep state. But I'm just about out of time. But I just want to thank you for watching the Citizen Report. Listen, this Saturday, this weekend, I believe marks the 1 year anniversary since it's 1 year on since I relaunched the Citizen Report. This broadcast originally began as a college podcast. I brought it back about a year ago, and I want to give a shout out to David Heller. God bless you, David, because you encouraged me to bring this show back, and you also provided me moral support. You became co-host later on. And I just want to thank you, David, so very, very much. And I give all the glory to God with this. And I'm not perfect, but I give the glory to God for this show. And I'm just so incredibly blessed for all the support. Thank you to everybody. And I cannot wait to see what the next year holds for this show and for whatever I do in broadcasting. So this is just, I'm just so blessed with this show. So On that note, God bless each and every one of you. And don't forget my website, thecitizenreport.weebly.com. God bless each and every one of you. Find me on social media, my co-host David Heller too. And I will see you right back here again next time. Have a good night, everyone.